Welcome to another Friendship Podcast.
Welcome to another Pinche podcast. Good morning from California.
Good morning from Florida. It's kind of early here, as early as is probably there for you.
Oh yeah, it's 7. So introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Matt Lugo. I'm the owner of RC Lowrider Connect.com. We bring a mix of custom mixed with 3D part culture. We're doing mostly custom one-off builds, builds that customers request. So when we started out our company, we would just fairly go on the internet, go on a forum and say, hey, we're doing these custom bodies and want them from the outside of the body, not from the inside like the traditional RC car body. And a lot of people took to it early, and I was like, hey, you know what? Let's just keep doing them. It reminded me of, doing the real one-to-one scale lowrider cars, just like the lowrider bike. It was like, I was like, you know what? Let's offer a service that at the time, I'm speaking on 3 years ago, no one was really out there like promoting it that way. And it just became one car after the other. And we enjoy doing it for the culture and for the people. The youngsters that are coming up, this is a really, really pivotal time in lowriding, especially, now in this internet age of information. And I think that this can connect, I'd say a young adult, I'd say, to that hands-on experience that they might be missing. So we're bringing a lot to the table. My background is the real automotive background. So I'm a certified mechanic by trade, automotive painter. So this was something for me was like, let's try to give back to the kids and bring them back in. The youth is really important at this time. I mean, I'll speak on that a lot because for me, lowriding was a savior, especially coming from the East Coast. I had to learn the West Coast culture because that's where it was born and raised. And that was a long, long road and a long path. So yeah, we're here for the whole culture. We're here for the kids. We're here for the parents. We want to see the parents able to afford services because I know how expensive it could be just trying to set up a basic shop in your house and not have the right resources or the information. So that's what we're bringing to the table with our brand.
Nice. And you say you do a lot of 3D stuff. What you're doing the different bodies? What are they more custom when people want like the Cadillac or the stuff like that?
Yeah.
What bodies do you usually do?
So right now, we're actually in test mode of a couple of new different bodies that haven't been really done, like Lincoln Continentals, 4-door Caprices, Blazers, stuff that like, was from the 90s era, brings you back memories, and you can create a new memory. A lot of people want to create their new old memory. Hey, I had a Buick Regal back in 1992. Man, that thing was on go Dayton's, and we can make that happen again. We can create the image, the vision, and that's our goal, man. And it's been I would say a very trying moment. It's that uphill moment in business and that thing of pleasure in business. You got to love what you do. You got to have a passion. You got to have that drive and dedication to a culture because it's a small subculture market sector, but it's still growing commercially. And I see that all the time now.
Well, that's one of the things that I wanted to get into too with this podcast is how this RC lowrider culture has spawned a whole new genre of business, entrepreneurism, business. It's basically now it's like instead of opening up a shop to build a regular lowrider, now it's RC lowriders, and there's a lot of businesses and there's a lot of people that are like groundbreaking right now when it comes down to inspired to innovate, create their own products, create their own parts, make other parts available with everything. I mean, I've interviewed another a person with his family. The kids are spraying and laying down patterns in a car booth with a spray gun, and it's awesome. And it's one of the things that really caught my attention even though, you know, I do have a red cat, and I, you know, I love the having it, but my son, he cracks me up because he's like, well, if we get another one, I want a hopper, but I also want it customized. And I'm like, yeah, that's gonna cost some money, but we're gonna work on that one. But you know, but that's good because once again, if it's something that keeps his attention to the lowrider culture, I'm for it, because even with me being a photographer, he gets bored of that sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Right now, our company is kind of geared towards the young adult. You know, I have a son, 14 years old. He's much more into the internet, much more in video gaming and the Twitch era and all of that. And that's a new language for me. You know, I'm not that old, but I'm not that young. And I always remind guys, you know, I have a very young spirit. I present my brand with a young spirit because it's about the youth. You know, a 13-year-old, a 14, a 15, a 16, a 17, and an 18. That's pivotal time. You know, that window, you could be impressionable, you could be a role model, you could set the standard in the culture. And that's pretty much what I wanted to convey to a lot of the youngsters out there, you know, that watch this video, that will hear this podcast. You know, it's never too late to come up with your own style. I support all the artists. I think that all the artists are amazing. I have a lot of respect, and I salute to them because it takes a lot to paint these cars one off. You know, 1-to-1 scale, you know, again, that's another world, but miniatures and, you know, 1/10 scale and all the other scales, those are arts. You know, that's works of art. That's not, I don't know how to explain it. I'm passionate about it, but it just, to me, it's just works of art. You know, these guys put in their love and their passion into it, their ideas, you know, getting some of the paint and materials. You know, I could tell you the paints that are used, there's a lot of brands. You know, everyone has their favorites. Everyone has their selection, but that's what makes everybody unique in their own artistry. You know, I'm a big fan of a lot of the older artists that I was able to meet in my past. Danny D, which was one of those people that I was blessed to meet a couple of times in my travels to the West Coast. And I saw the works of art, the passion-driven candies and pearls and just multi-patterns and all these things that they started back in the, you know, the 80s and the 70s. You know, we're just, you know, to me, descendants of all that, and we're trying to keep that culture and that tradition alive. So, you know, again, much respect to all the artists and all the new guys coming in. You know, 3 years ago, I came into this with just, I think for me, it was just an idea. It wasn't something that I really wanted to do full time, because this is what I do now full time. I build RC cars full time, and I'm blessed for that. And that's a blessing. I can't be more thankful to my situation. You know, hands down, that's God's will. And I want to pass that on to these youngsters coming in. I want them to see that the possibilities are endless. You know, you take that RC car, you sit there, you break it down, you put that vision, and you turn something from nothing into a full reality that has expression. Because if you see the way some of the artists paint, they paint with a lot of expression. It makes you feel some kind of way. You know, like I'm a very a competitive person also. So I look at myself and I say, man, I got to do a little better right here. I should harder right here, man. This guy inspires me, man. I want to do it like that. So I think right now, for me and this company and this brand, we want to bring that awareness to the youngster, to the parents. Parents, this stuff is attainable. You know, it is. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I'm a parent. I could waste money on a ton of stuff, but this is not a waste of money. This is not a waste of time. This is a growing culture. Right now, this RC Lowrider is like the new lowrider bike of its time. It's what it is. You remember it. I remember it. When lowrider bikes, I mean, I'm sure you remember it coming from what, San Jose, correct?
Yes, San Jose.
You've seen this thing come from the birthplace to that little commercial pocket, to the commercials on TV, to the Snoop Dogg movement, there's all kinds of things that have happened in the past, I'd say 27, 30 years even, right? Right now, this is the new lowrider bike of its time. I do encourage the parents to get involved, even if it is with a basic kit. You know, some of the more basic level kits like the Monte Carlo, that's a great car. I'm not going to lie to you. That's an awesome car. For a starter, I'd buy a starter all day at $399. I'm still buying them at $399. I don't care because they're a nice little car.
Yeah, with the Monte Carlo, what stands, it's a dancer. What's considered, so a lot of people, the hopper is the one that comes back and forth on the bumper.
Yeah.
And with the Monte Carlo, it's considered it's pretty much a lay and play, or they consider it a dancer. So that means it moves all four corners at three wheels.
All the way around.
It does not, only thing it doesn't do is hop, but that's because you can play with it and make it go in every direction.
Yeah.
That's what a old school dancer is, and they were popular in the 90s. In the 90s in San Jose, California, we didn't do we weren't like LA where it was just all about the hopping. It was the dancing. That Monte Carlo, so that Monte Carlo fits the like up here in NorCal, because that's what it really was in the 90s. They were just car dancing like crazy, and it really wasn't the hop. It was and you would see hoppers in LA, but they were rare car dancers in LA compared to hoppers was rare. They were done, where it was the opposite up here in NorCal.
Yeah. And
like you said, growing up in the 90s, but and what you said, that it kind of clicked in my head. If you really think about it, ever since Lowrider magazine had Lowrider Bike magazine, and then that craze came in, and you would see, Jeffries, his model cars in there too.
Oh yeah, early.
But the thing is that since then there hasn't been really much of another fad. I mean, everybody has, pedal cars, everybody has lowrider bikes. They custom paint the old school strollers. But then now, what Red Cat, and we got to give them a shout out, because they brought out these RC lowriders. People were making some custom stuff a while back, and they were building lowriders and stuff. It was here and there, and it was really a very, very small market, because they were custom making these things. But now that they made this more obtainable, it's blew up, and it's become something that's really innovative in the lowrider culture, especially when it comes down to inspiring and getting the youngsters and the kids involved.
100%. The lowrider bike to me was inspiring. Kid, I didn't have that ability to get much stuff as a kid. My parents weren't rich. My father was a blue collar worker. My mom was a stay-at-home parent, and she basically took care of everything in the house. And every time we save up $1, $10, $20. If I get some handouts from some uncles and aunts and stuff, and save up Christmas. And I remember the first time I got my red Aslan Cruiser off the Lowrider magazine catalog, and I got it in the mail. It was $250. And in that time, $250 was like $500, $1,000. I was a kid, I didn't understand it. I got this little money, and my mom trusted that would come in the mail, and it did. And that was the story. And when it arrived, I was like, oh man, I'm cleaning the white walls. I'm putting the handlebars on. I'm in this, And I think that the Red Cat product brought that to the scene also, because it felt unattainable before, what is the real aspect of the lowrider car? Like, there wasn't, to me anyway, off the shelf or on the online circuit, there wasn't anything you could have bought to modify to that extreme. So shout out to Red Cat and everyone over there, because I tell you what, they changed the scope of the culture a little bit. The hobby increased, and now we are turning into businessmen. The older guys like myself and yourself and other people within the entrepreneurial community, we're showing the younger kids, hey, look, this is possible, man. You have an idea for that RC Lowrider, make it a product, make it a brand, create something and be proud of it. Stand on your pricing, and I could talk for days on that, but stand up to what your quality is, and stand up to that and say, I'm proud of this. I created this. This is the product. This is the brand. Let's keep it going. And that's also what Jeffries shows that as an example. He showed that from a young age, if you keep going and trying and tinkering and figuring out, and you're going to mess up. I'm not here to speak on all this positive win-win situation. I'm saying you're going to mess up. You're going to take an L. You're going to learn, right? You're going to learn. I'm not saying the L is in loss. I'm saying the L is in learn. You got to learn, right? And I fell down plenty of times. I can't even go into how far I tore up cars, man, bodies of cars, trying to figure out how the plastic adheres to the paint and how can I make it better? And damn, I messed this up. Oh man, I go back again and try another one. So I tell everyone out there in this hobby, in this culture, if you're looking to make this a business or you're looking to take your hobby into another level and say, you know what, I'm ready for this, then hey, you have my salute. You have all the positivity in the world to do it, because we need more brands. We need more people to do their products. Because I'm not an interior guy. Hey, listen, hey, Pinche, I'm not an interior dude. Don't ever, I won't never get online and be like, I'm the hottest interior dude in the game. No way. But you want to build your brand off of a product you believe in. And I believed in the paintwork because I was doing this stuff 1-to-1 scale. And here in Florida, I'm not from here. I'm from New York City, is where I'm born and raised. And I moved here 27 years ago. And I came down here to cultivate, to like figure out where's low riding at. Is it in the South? Is it more West? Is it Midwest? And for me, the South had it going on years ago. I've been coming here for so long that I said, you know what? It's time to come here, bring a brand, create something from nothing. And it's been a roller coaster from my first car. Sangria 64. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that car, but that car was a vision. That's it. It was just an idea. It was my passion in art. That's it. It stands up to itself. Jeffrey certified. He saw the car and said, amazing. Like, this is crazy how far this has all come. And that's just the beginning. That's the beginning. What's happening now, this thing has evolved like a snowball. Shout out to Armando Flores. Oh, man, amazing guy, because he carried the culture on his back. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to put it out. That's the example I have from it. I've seen him take the model culture into the RC culture, and I'm like, hey, man, he's the godfather of this thing. I'm just going with it. And I'm figuring out how to make it better on my side and represent too. I represent the West also, and I try to do it in the best, most possible positive way, because the art and the culture is there. It's there. It's right where you are right now. It's all around you. It's in that community. It's right when you go down the street to the taco stand. I'm sure someone's pulling up in a 6 tray somewhere. Somewhere. I know somewhere right now. And that's what keeps me alive in this and inspired to continue to get, ideas for new images and new visions. And hopefully some of my cinematography, photography helps some of that too. I'm not the best, but I try with what I got.
Absolutely. And like you were saying, so back in the day when you were like most parents, I believe a lot of times they would invest their money in these lowrider bikes and even cars, full-size regular cars, to get their teenager to pay attention to something other than the streets and drugs and alcohol and gangs and negativity, or give them a goal with doing their grades. If you got good grades, I'll get you a car. I don't know about Florida or the East Coast, but nowadays in California, it's like you're better off waiting until you're 18 to get your license, because there's so many rules now because of the 16. But when I was younger, it was like get your you get your what do you call it? Your learner's permit at 15 and a half, and then you can get your license at 16. And it was a big deal, because then at that time what you wanted was a full-on car. Nowadays, a lot of people tend to wait because you have to jump through a lot of hoops. There's a lot of rules. Can't drive, can't do this, you have to have an adult in the car. You can't have any minors in the car. There's a bunch of stuff that they made over here in California because of the so many accidents and so on and so forth. But this goes back to nowadays, something like the Red Cat is something great for a teenager to get his hands on. And not even that I've seen even younger, obviously, but my thing is wow, these are the next kids. These kids are going to grow up to be the next custom painters. These guys are going to be the next pinstripers. These guys are going to be the next muralists. These are going to be the next car enthusiasts. And these guys are going to be the next people building lowriders. And more than anything that I've ever seen, I've seen all these kids like really into it. And we have where we wonder how lowrider is going to be I think that the generation that's spawning from this,
Yeah.
with business and just kids being interested,
Yeah.
that part right there, it's really what we've been needing. And this is really what I've seen, but it puts a smile on my face when I see these kids that are so into what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to add to that because I over here on the East Coast, it's a little different. Culturally, I'm Hispanic, Puerto Rican, third generation. I'm not from the island. I wasn't born there. My parents were not. Their parents
I'm
were.
third generation too.
Okay, all right. So you understand that we speak the same language in that. And what I try to instill in these kids today is get an outlet, get somewhere to plug in. I call it plugging in. Like I remember when I really got locked into low riding, it was all about plugging in, finding out the newest information I could through Lowrider Magazine and Street Customs Magazine and all these magazine publications that were out, Orleans Magazine, all these. Yeah, man, respect to Orleans. And that was one of my favorite publications because it was rare to find it. And I remember
you're from the East Coast, so do you remember Scrape?
Yes, I have the first 3 issues of that magazine. Actually,
I had all I got the subscriptions as soon as they came out. I have.
So you're OG. You're OG generation like myself. We understand those times were pivotal in the magazine publishing market, and that information was like the Bible. It was like, oh man, who's new? Who's coming out? Ooh, look at that. Ooh, that's fly, man. I got to do something like that, or just all these crazy.
I remember Porky, the Scrape magazine, Porky's, when they had that giant box, the switch box, and that was like the goal if you were like gonna really invest in low riding, was to get that box.
Yeah, it was a 27 switches or 28 switches, and you could do all side-to-side combos with 2 hands and all this crazy stuff. And at that time, I could name some companies. I mean, I've been low riding since I was about 14. My older brother's actually what got me at a young age, because that's a whole long story. But I got into it as a youth because I was looking for something, again, to plug into. And the bicycle seemed easier. For me at the time, that's what I can afford. That's what my mom can afford. That's what I could do. And then I started convincing my parents that there was to go to. I was convincing them because on our side, that wasn't the common thing to do. So they were like, what are these gatherings? Or these people that are like doing evil things? And it's like, no, these are hardworking people that have either a 9 to 5, or I'd say a 28/7 job. That's all the time. They work hard for their money. And I've never met anybody around me that's ever been negative in any kind of way. I've never seen it that way. I've always saw it as, look at that guy. If he can have it, I can have it. If he's out there, got them Daytons, man, I'm getting them Daytons, So it was a different kind of upbringing in the culture. And for us on the East Coast, there was a little divide, between us amongst our own people, because custom to some guys was different than other guys in a way that was like, that's lowrider because it's low, not because it has wheels. That's a whole nother long topic. But again, that was the East Coast learning. And then finally, I just dove into the Lowrider magazine. I put myself out there. My brother at the time was doing car dancing. He had a car dancer, and we built that together. And it just started blowing up and blowing up. And I said to my brother, I think it's time for us to do this stuff for real and start building cars for people. And, so we did that for a long time. And then as I got old, I took the left, he took the right, and we separated and did our own things. And now I'm on this path. I've been on this path now for 3 years with RC Lowrider Connect, and I want to create a brand that's significant with the culture. I want to build a brand that people can believe in and say, that's a resource. I can go to and ask them for this cool custom, and they'll build me a cool custom RC. And with fantasy in mind. A lot of the paint jobs too are fantasy. If you see the way I paint, I try to paint in this lowrider fantasy world, So, and I think the kids need to plug in. If you plug into something like this is where you're going to go. Business, you're going to go make a brand, create a home, a brand that you can share with your family and your friends, and then also build within the community, because it is a future in this. There's a lot of future in low riding. Look at yourself. Lobo, I respect you because you have a great platform.
Thank you.
It's the culture and the people. And that to me says everything like what I'm trying to do. You know, bring the kids in. Come on, man, you're 15. I'm gonna show you how to paint these cars. I'm gonna show you how to break this down right quick. You know, because that's the future. Never mind me. I've done some great things in my career, in my life. So I look at kind of a give back too. And I'm gonna be honest with you. Some of this stuff is really give back to the community type thing.
Yeah.
And we are doing a lot. So I mean, like I said, and sharing platforms. Custom RC Lowriders. That gentleman there has a great platform. Them cars are hopping. He's got springs coming out. He's got a lot of stuff, man. I'm excited because that's the stuff that brings me full circle back to learning. And again, man, the left side is the best side. I mean, what can I say? Like I got much respect for the culture there and what everybody's trying to do right now.
Oh yeah, and it is a learning thing because, like I said, it's what this also spawns like the engineers and everything, and it goes back to something I said on I was on a documentary for a college student. He needed to do a documentary because he's a journalist or studying to be a journalist. And one of the things I mentioned was like when back in the 70s and everything, everybody came to San Jose. This is when Lowrider magazine was created. But a lot of people were in San Jose State in the Silicon Valley because they were coming up here to learn engineering, computers, everything like that. Yeah. And even, I don't know how the buses work over there, but if you've ever seen a bus that lowers itself so that a wheelchair person can access it better, that's hydraulics.
Yeah.
That's airbags.
Yes.
That's Lowrider.
Yes.
Because we're the ones that put that on a vehicle.
Yeah.
Nobody else had, so ultimately when it comes down to it, it's this engineering, these, like you say, that you do a lot of 3D stuff. Pretty soon they're going to be 3D parts that are going to be like customized for full-size vehicles.
Yep.
Could you imagine that? I mean, could you imagine someone just being able to 3D like a hood or something just to take weight off of, as we have carbon fiber for the racing, cars, eventually they're going to do something where there's going to be more, and in the future we're also going to be looking at materials and instantaneously building. I mean, could you imagine them 3D printing a 64 Impala full size?
Hey man, 3D printing is the future. I recently just did a little bit more research and have been, because we just recently invested in some 3D equipment that we think is going to take the resin world to a new level. A company called Anacubic, which they were able to machine that can pretty much do 100% full bodies in resin. And that technology has been out, fairly new, but the seismic part of the machine is what makes it capable. A lot of resin prints today, you have to cut them in half and 3s and 4s and 5s. And you got to then put them together with like the special glue. And what we're trying to do is get a 90 to 95% print.
Yeah.
I can just, we're still going to have the man resin and make sure it's smooth, but at least we have a solid print that's a quality product. So we're on that mission now, and learning 3D technology is something that I never thought I had, but unfortunately I dive into it, and it's interesting. A lot of people through it, a lot of like underground 3D, like I guess I call them scientists. They present themselves with the utmost, like, hey man, watch out, you got to do this program and mix it up with this file and do this. And I'm like, whoa, I'm learning some stuff, And like I said, sky is on limits. Yeah, stuff is crazy.
Yeah, I think, and what I think too is with the advance of 3D printing, and we'll keep it to scale, right? RC models.
Yeah.
But with the advance of this, and I know that it's like you gotta you can say if you want something that you see online, right? They sell you the program, right? And then if you have certain machine. I'm not too familiar. I've never been hands-on with a 3D.
Yeah, so the process is pretty simple. You can get into the 3D market at different levels. When we first started, we started at an entry level of $500, and we wanted to do small parts. We wanted to do the bumper kits and the door handles and the sun visors for the convertible 64. And then I don't know, it's just like a bug, you start to just dive into this, and then you get the right 3D programs. Most of the companies, depending on who you invest your first machine in, they actually give you a software that you can learn learn from. It's like self-intuitive stuff. It's really easy. You don't have to be a CAD designer or a 3D engineer, so to speak, but you still have to understand the processes of how to make 3D prints and what they are, right? There's different files.
Exactly.
PLA, there's, that's the plastic that you use. In certain machines, you use hardened plastic. And then there's the software, right? So companies like FlashForge, they have their own software where it's plug and play, preferably to a PC or a Mac. I'll give you the gem on it. It's fairly simple. And you get a Mac machine, even there, you can find those on sale today. And you can plug in this great 3D software that allows you to resize, reshape, remodel a bit. And you can make these prints out of existing STL files that are out there. They're in the market. You can purchase them from other designers, and then you pretty much license them yourself to license. It's just like any licensing agreement. You need to purchase that to attain the right. So that's learning the business too. This is where all of that comes into play. But in the 3D side, you could get in this for $500-600, and then you could work your way up into the thousands, and then learn the, I guess you could say, the profit margins of working with resin material. Resin material is quite pricey depending on the brands and the type of material you use. So we start getting into profit margins and investment. But I'll say, to keep it really simple, the 3D market is there's a lot of great artists in it right now too. I mean, there's some guys designing some amazing things, and that's going to grow on forever. That's not going to stop. And in the one-to-one scale lowriders in the real world, they're using a lot of this 3D technology now to scan dashboards and bumpers and custom. So trust me, 3D ain't going nowhere. I'm telling everyone today.
Exactly. And so what you're saying right there, where I see eventually what's going to happen is that there's going to be a market, and the market is if someone, gets into that designing and everything, where basically they're going to have like every type of car you can fit on that chassis, and they're going to be like, pick one, and you're going to go, I want to 3D print it, and that's hands off, because once you've already proven the design, right, then you're just going to sell the program to make a Cadillac, a 80 Caddy,
whatever's there,
whatever's there, and so there's going to be a digital market. Let's just say it's a digital market once somebody gets really involved in like perfecting all these things, and then of course you can even go as high as like say, okay, so Chevy could easily, because Red Cat does get a license to produce the GM, the Chevys and stuff. But like Chevrolet, even Ford, anybody that wants to do it, they can create this whole market, a sub-market to people like, the RC builders, and they would just make their money right there too, because they have all the damn machines to do all the scanning and everything, and all they have to do is downsize it.
That's coming. I think the next thing about this is enterprise. I think that even us, I call myself a small company. We look to enterprise. So, look, GM might license with a guy like Lowriding and a guy like Armando Flores and say, hey, man, build me the Armando Flores edition, GMC truck lowrider RC. That licensing agreement can exist amongst that because we're artists, right? So I compare it a lot to the music industry because that's our culture too. The music we listen to, the messages that we also take on, and this market is like that. I look at myself like an artist, independent. I don't have any companies backing me, not even a bank, and that's where I look at things from do you want to sign a deal? Like Red Company, they have put a lot of my earlier work on, but they're a big example of what to follow because they were the brand that entered a market that they had no real clue about. You got to realize this, right? Because we can speak on it from that. I'm a big fan of what they're doing with the culture too. I think they're plugging a lot of the youth in, which is important. For us here, it's important that we all come together, right? RC Lowrider Connect, things for Lowriders. Everybody needs to come together and push the agendas. So I think that joint venture agreements will exist. I think that a joint, say myself and Toyota, I don't care, I'll build Toyota under a LRH 285 chassis and make that thing front, back, side to side, and back three and all this stuff. That's an idea. That's possible. I think that we do reach out to a lot of those corporations on a corporate level. If we did, what set us apart? It's just like what Cartoon did, the brands that he supports, and shout out to Mr. Cartoon and Lefty there. They're doing an amazing job and putting it out there in the way they're still representing the culture, us, the people, and I think that's important for this. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's the thing, and like I said, my biggest goal with this series and of podcast dealing with the RCs. I mean, ultimately we want to inspire the next generation. We want to let people know that they're being seen and understanding that this is not just a fad. This is like, there's real culture coming out of this. And it's been amazing. At first, people were hesitant. It was pricey and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But again, the time with, and I've talked to a lot of other people, and they've said the same thing, that the time what you get with your kids with something like this, whether it's like, okay, they need to do chores to afford to get this toy, this RC, okay, because in the parent's eye, it's like it's a toy, but it's expensive. But what we're trying to say is it's not just a toy. This is something that can inspire way more. It's like
this thing, you know what? And I'll give you an example right quick about that. So for me, 3 years ago, I sat down and I got a phone call from a gentleman who said, "Hey man, I need you to paint this RC 64 Red Cat." And I was painting real cars, cars, 1-to-1 scale. I'm out there pattern roofs and sides and stuff. And I had a car in my driveway. And I was like, man, I don't know if I want to work on a real car anymore. It almost put me in a different mindset of like, why aren't I just taking my art, miniaturizing it, and having people share it to the world? Because what I was doing with it was, around with it. You could check out one of my works of art on your car, but it was just different. This hits different. Like when I did the first car and I got a phone call, this gentleman, I was lucky to have known him in the lowrider scene in Florida, and he's a pretty well-known guy, Torres family. And this guy, he said, "Hey man, my nephew wants this car painted. Can you do it?" And I'm not thinking anything of it, man. I was just like, "Yeah, man, send it. Go ahead. Whatever. I got real cars in the driveway. I don't have time. Come on, like that roof right there is $5,000. Like I don't know what this is worth." So sends me the car. I do the car, but I did it in a color. Well, I did it in the color he wanted at first. This is how crazy it was. He said, "I want Oriental blue candies over like a light metal flake with, just a little metallic and some pearls." Okay.
That's a lot for an RC.
You see that? And I said, okay. And that was it. I was like, all right, that's cool. I guess. I don't know how it's going to work on this piece of plastic because I'd never seen one.
Yeah.
And it took me about a couple of weeks to figure it out, honestly. The first one was the hardest. I didn't know how to really approach the plastic. I didn't know how to scuff it. I went around it like plastic bumper of the new day, like painting a new car. And it took me forever to scuff it to where I was confident to put the primer down, because I was like, man, if I waste this stuff, it sucks, right? So it just started working out. I put the primer down, let it cure, sanded it, came back, put a silver metallic, put a light metal flake over it. And then I just started putting patterns like I would on a normal car, except miniaturized. Yeah. And I finished it. I finished the car in 2 weeks, and then I shelved it. The gentleman calls me about a week later, says, "Hey, man, I need that car, man. I want to put it together." And for some reason, I never sent him the car. And then he said, "Hey, Lugo, you know what? That's cool. Don't worry about it." I shelved the car because I had a different vision in mind. And I changed the color to brandy wines, all the candy brandy wines and all the purples. And I was in a zone, and I redid the car, and he receives the car, and he says, "Hey, I think you shipped me the wrong car." I said, "You know what? That wasn't the wrong car, and I'm sorry you feel that way." And that was friend still and whatever. He shelved the car. Yeah. 2 weeks from that point, his nephew calls and says, "Hey man, you painted that car?" And I say, "Yeah, I painted that car." He says, "What's it doing at my uncle's house?" Like, that's what I want. I don't care about that blue thing he's talking about. I want that. So it started from that, and thank God for that moment, because I would have never seen the second car. Now, the second car, which is another car that was known out of Arizona called El Vermicide. And El Vermicide became a really popular look for Red Cat racing, because I still kept the car with this lowrider kind of East LA feel, with the Tangelo pearls and the mixture of different colors. And that car was actually a disaster during its creation.
Oh, wow.
So the blessings behind all these different cars we've done to make it to a business, to be confident enough. And we're still learning, and I'm in a still learning process. Like, I see amazing work going on right now. I see a lot of paint jobs that are killer. That's the stuff that keeps me on my toes. And I'm inspired by it. So yeah, I mean, the journey in this is like from an idea, and then just this past year, we decided, let's just become legitimate. Let's put our LLC. Let's create a real business from this. Let's pay some taxes on this. Let's see some residual income from this, what I call mailbox money era, that we could sit here and watch a dollar go into that account overnight. Yeah. And that's the motto. I'm going to be honest. That's the motto, is just, keeping this thing flowing. And again, co-ventures, like I have nothing against joining other teams and creating a bigger brand out of a brand. That's where this is going as well, for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, you're going to have certain parts. You're going to start people are going to start selling custom parts that you don't have over there. So you're going to go, hey, how should I get that in bulk? I'm going to carry it over here. I'm going to resell it. You're not, it's whatever. But that's how you have network. You have like gentleman Galindo, he just opened a whole shop. He does lowrider bikes and RCs, and and this guy, he's starting to get into that, doing the they're doing displays for the cars and stuff like that. And all that stuff, once again, people inspired, helping with business. Lowrider bikes, they've always been a business. I was mentioning the catalog, like you were saying about your lowrider bike when you were younger. I still have some of the catalogs that I ordered from Lowrider magazine that were the parts catalogs for some of these lowrider bikes. Because this was before the internet, people. You can just get online or look at Instagram and order parts for your lowrider bike. They literally you'd open a magazine and say, get a free catalog, or send $5 for a catalog. And you get all excited, and you write them a little letter, an actual paper letter, real mail. And then a couple weeks later, they'd come this little printed catalog with all the different bike parts. And if you were lucky, it was in color,
if you were, and so, and I'll take you down that road. The Slam and Ride was one of them. Lowrider Fantasy Bicycles was one of them. There was a lot of these companies that were actually in the early time of that resale market that brought the lowrider bike to the forefront. Warren Wong wheels was a big thing. Warren is a staple of the lowrider bicycle community with his company Slam and Ride, and I would buy parts from him online out of a drawing. The actual catalog was a drawing of the parts. It wasn't even a picture. I'm gonna try to find that stuff, because that's where it started, and now it's an internet digital era, video era, podcast era. And, we were ordering parts on the whim, just trying to figure it out. And now there's a lot of resources and smaller companies too, underground guys that are doing this in the RC world. And I think that there's a lot more people that are going to participate in that resale market, because that's the only way we're going to keep it alive. How are you going to get the cars? How are you going to get the custom parts? Everyone has their own style too. So that's what makes all this so interesting to me still. I stay in this market because I want to build a brand that supports custom, lowrider style, fantasy images of what it could be, because on the real car, you know, we're doing stuff, but in this world, we got the ability to flex this thing up. You know, we can make 3D this and 3D that and flip this, and it's gonna start getting wild. I'm not gonna lie, man.
Oh yeah, eventually it's gonna be, you're gonna get the super radical stuff that's like way out there, does like several things, especially with they're gonna be bringing out that bed dancer. And could you imagine? I mean, just at the end of the day, it's gonna go above and beyond. It's gonna be, and you know, it might get a little crazy and cartoonish, but you know what? At the end of the day, if these kids are having fun doing it, or the people are having fun and they're learning things, you know, they're gonna have to engineer how certain things work, and they're gonna love it. I know they're gonna do it. It's there. It's obvious. It's already been proven that everybody that's into these RCs are looking for better ways of putting it together. The when they made was it, I think it was Candy and Chrome, or I don't know who. There's another, the other RC guy out of New York, and where the cars are just
Christopher. Yeah, Christopher. Shout out to Christopher. Let's see, by the name Little Lowrider RC, Lowrider NYC, I believe. Yeah. He's a great guy. That dude is. I'm gonna be honest. If anyone wants an example, a really good example of where to go to social media and build your brand. And you know, that guy
are amazing.
Took that Monte Carlo and made it look like the thing you need to have all the time, and I need that. You know, like that's the thing. Yeah, he danced that thing, flipped it, did a bunch of stuff with it, and then he made a following that is really good. So I think there is room for a lot more. I think social media is starting to magnify a lot more of our culture, which is great. And I say our
here, right?
I see you, and I see what it's done for your company as well, and we want to see that success. And because we need platforms to speak on, we need that little message to that kid right now that's sitting there saying to himself, "Can I do this? Is it possible for me to build a car kind of like RC Lowrider Connect, or kind of like Custom RC Lowrider, and kind of like Armando Flores, and kind of like..." Yes, there is a way. There's a way for you to do this. You know, I was fortunate enough to be painting real cars in real life, and I was able to adopt it reverse, which was the example of Candy and Chrome. That's the example he left for me. You know, he said, that's possible. Look, man, you're painting real cars. Go paint this other stuff. This is cool. This is for kids. This is for young adults. You contributing back to the culture that gave you the ability to continue to do it. So that's what I'm doing here today.
Yeah, and I see, and I was talking to somebody that paints. I'm not gonna mention his name yet.
Sure.
But he kind of helped me with an idea. He actually connected me with to hit up Armando to do the podcast. Sure. And well, shout out to Chino. I was in a
much love to Chino. Hey, listen, man. If you want to bring, he's like, you know what? He's like the Suge Knight of this thing. You know, like he puts it together. No. Look, I've known him for years. You could tell him, RC Lowrider Connect, Matt Lugo, and he's gonna tell you from 20 years ago. You know, like, you know, crossing that bridge. You know, I say to the West has always been a connection. Yeah. And he's been one of those guys who's always been behind the scenes of a lot of the cultural movement.
Oh, yeah.
I hear his name frequent. You know, he dwells in the same places I kind of dwell. So, and that's, I feel like we need those godfathers to put the sprinkles on some of this.
Exactly. And so one of the things we were saying, and this is something that he had said, because now they do, you know, they go and do those paint classes or the workshops to help people learn how to pattern and stuff.
Yeah.
But he told me that back when before that started, he was hesitant because, right, you guard your craft, right? Sure. The master doesn't want to take on other people because you're gonna teach your competition, right? But then you realize as you start getting older and growing or you're busy, that you need, you know, where's the next person gonna come and take over the craft? When's the next great painter, you know, and so on and so forth. And so when he said that, and that's what kind of like that caught my attention, because I was trying to figure out how am I going to go about this podcast. I I had released another podcast, and then some people were commenting and said, "Oh, do one about the RCs, do one about the RCs," which was a great idea, and it was already kind of in my head. But then when people started telling me, do a podcast about the RCs, but I wanted to know what angle am I going to take about the RCs? Am I just going to be like, "Oh, lowrider toy car, da da da"? No, I want, So I was like, and then I heard this, and then I seen these kids spraying down, an RC car. And I go, that's it. It's the next generation of lowriding.
That's right.
It's not about people making money off of them, paying them. It's not about Red Cat that brought them out, getting rich over us or anything like that. It was plain and simple. The fact is that these are the next generation of lowriders across the board, whether they become painters, automotive designers, and you want to talk people, now the big thing like online, we want to talk about online and the internet. The big thing is they complain about people don't want to do blue collar work no more, right?
Well,
we all want to be influencers and so on and so forth.
That's what's happening to the market. This is I call it the COVID era, and it affected a lot of people in a lot of different ways, including myself. I won't get too deep into that, but I too for my own brand and said I have to do something about it for myself and invest in my own program. And right now, I see a lot of, like I said, a lot of new up-and-coming artists. I see them, striving for success. And some of us can learn from each other for sure. And I think that we all have to samples and try to learn from each other. I'm still in a process where some of my, I say, quote unquote, trends are late because I'll call them late because, there's innovators right now. There are the top fives. Like in anything, there's a top 10 and maybe there's a top 20. But as you see players in the game like myself, I come from the other side of the country. And I come with the same full force type attitude towards the culture. And I want the best cars to come out and I want the nicest stuff to drop. But ultimately, it's about bringing the unity and this thing into the culture, the youth. We have to bring them together. It's too much divide and it's too much. I'm too cool. I'm cooler than you. And, here I'm a tough guy. I'm putting up my dukes today. Nah, man, we're not going to do that today. We want to show that you can be yourself. You can bring unity to the scene, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, Canada, Europe, Japan. We're all going to come together because we're one community. I traveled all over the country this past year. I say all over. I say Kentucky, Atlanta. I went to a lot of places to seek out, what's really going on in this. Like, what am I doing? What is happening? What is going on inside of the country? And let me tell you, there is a very big interest in what's happening in custom RC lowriding today. It's there. It's not going anywhere. I'm saying that across the pond. I'm yelling it, hey, man, it's not going nowhere. We're here to stay. And I think there is a lot to learn still about styles and trends and what is the style you're looking for. Do you want a candy and chrome car? Do you want a RC Lowrider Connect car? Do you want a Pinche Lowrider car? You could have your own brand of cars. Everyone can have their own teams and still come together and have a great show. And that's how the real car culture really was in these. I remember everybody get together. Come on, man, we're going to wash the car tonight, man. We're going to, the wheels, man. Don't forget the wheels. Don't be a buster. You better clean the white walls, fool. That was always the conversation. And now for the kids, it's like, hey, man, those Jeffries wheels, they better be the real Jeffries wheels. Are they version 1, 2, or 3? Are they, they engraved. So this thing is starting to turn into that conversation. So, again, in this platform, I want to thank you and your platform. And everything that you've offered, because I feel like this information is going to resonate through the culture, and that way they can get it firsthand. Absolutely. Because you are there. You're there in the Mecca. That's the Mecca, the motherland. And this information does come across the pond, and we do try our best to put out the best image possible with our style too, because you see some of the styles are different. Yeah. We're big on the candy, some of the cars out here, some of the cars are more, that donk style, as they call it in the South. Hey, man, everybody's got their flavors. That's the name of this game.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the late 90s, early 2000s, the donks came out and people complained, oh, they put the big wheels, that's ugly, that's not low riding. But it's not low riding because it became its own culture. but it did spawn from low riding because people went, okay, all the way down to 13-inch wheels. Now what do you do now? So the difference was the big wheels, and they're making big wheels for some of these cars. I think they have what, the 20s. I just seen somebody. I think
they got 27s, man. They got 27 like that big.
So think about in right now in donk culture, which people don't if you don't understand the culture out there, some of these cars are designed for the track. So they look like you're just a donk car, whatever, but they're building these things for quarter miles. They're putting power behind them and everything else like that. So just imagine, and you had mentioned you're doing a 3D four-door Caprice. Okay, so let's just say that 80s style Caprice,
70s even. Yeah, 70s even. Yeah,
you can do a 70s with like a glass house or something.
Yeah,
you can go with that. And think about this: if you put it on one of the Red Cat racers, one of their drift cars or something like that, and you put that body on there with them donks, and then make it a RC racer with hydraulics. You never know. It just depends. You can swap out the
motor. We can go anywhere. Yeah, we can go anywhere with this. I mean, like I said, I endorse the fantasy world of this because I think that's market. If we take it too literal and we start putting a lot of the conversation,
the restrictions on this is low riding, blah blah blah.
Listen, the bed dancers are spinning, they're tilting, they're doing all this. You know what? I'm looking forward to this, man. I got some trucks that are coming out, B2200s that are dropping soon. I mean, there's some stuff coming out of here, and I want to bless the market firsthand and let them know that we're here for them. We're here for you guys on that side. If there's anything that we could do at RC Lowrider Connect to make our business better, just let us know, because we're still learning how to build this enterprise where it becomes more efficient. The time periods of wait times are a little high right now because there is a high demand. I have a lot of demand. I can't stress it enough. Like in the paint department in my company right here, I have a lot going on to where I'm weeks behind still on great projects that haven't even dropped. So I'm letting everyone know custom is custom. And, if you want to pay, you want to play, you got to pay. If it's, you're on different levels, basic, you've got your basic guys. I promote that, the basic, you got your mid-level, and then you got your radicals. I got cars that are coming out like, you're going to be like, what is this? Like, who's thinking of this stuff? But we're here for that. We're here to listen. I'm here to learn. And I'm here to give you guys, you youngsters out there, just keep it pushing. Keep this movement going for the next generation, because I'm going to be an old guy. And my guy Pinchas is going to be an old guy. We want to sit on the Caribbean with the beer and chill for a little while and watch this thing grow up again. And I think that's the future, is watching them and not us, because we've made our choices, man. I think in our age range, we could say and sat down, we've made some choices, excuse my language, but we've made some choices that, hey, come here, kid, 15-year-old. Let me show you this hustle. Let me put you on this thing, because this is what's going to create that business.
Yeah, because in the beginning, I thought I was going to be an auto mechanic or whatever. I had uncles. I worked on cars. I changed I always say I changed my first tire at 6 years old. And I thought I was going to do all that. I've pulled engines by myself. I've done all that stuff. I had auto shop in high school. Oh, wow. But I had uncles that were mechanics, and I thought I was going to go in some type of route like that. And it didn't really happen. But at the same time, I still love cars, so I love all cars. I mean, I love lowriders. I love, hot rods. I've always said if I win the lottery, I'm going to have a couple lowriders. I'm going to have I'm going to have a quarter-mile car. I'm going to have, a modern car. But, at the end of the day, that's if I ever win the lottery, or I ever become, wealthy off of what I'm doing. Sure. But I do it no matter what, because I love it, and that's the thing. And then now I have a 12-year-old son, and the Red Cat, it came apart, and I haven't worked on it yet, but he was playing with it and it broke, and he looked at me like in horror, because he's like, oh my God. And I'm like, don't even sweat it. It happens. That's part of the car. But I just looked at it the other day and I go, okay, this is what it needs to, I can put it back together. It's not going to not be a problem. But, in general, it's like, but like I said, with my kid, I've been trying to get him into cameras or editing and all this. He's a video game person. He has all these things. Yeah. But But when it comes down to the cars, he says, I want another one. I want another red cat. I want a 59 or something like that with the hops, but I want to get it custom. So it's like now it's like, okay, now we're gonna reel you in, and then there's gonna be your grades. There's gonna be certain things, and then we'll build this together. And that's where I'm going. To me, it's inspiring another generation. He's into it, and I'm like, finally, okay, something that's grabbed his attention. He doesn't just want plain. He wants he sees other kids with the paint jobs or the hopping and all that, and that's where he's going. And that's the whole goal of all of this, because low riding is not a crime. It is not a stereotype anymore. This is a family thing, and all of us older cats that did do a lot of crazy things back in the day, we realize that this brings peace to our culture, and it can do a lot for everybody, and it does. We don't want it to fade away, so we have to start inspiring the next generation.
For sure. And that's the goal, man. And that's what we're doing. That's what we brought to the table here. I want to thank you, Pinches, for having us on. We look at episode if possible. We could definitely, dig deeper into what we do and maybe even share some photos and things, some cool stuff that's coming, man. I'm going to share some information with you in the next few weeks of some builds that are actually in California. I build cool customs for California customers, which I'm proud that I'm able to do that, because they can send those cars anywhere in the state of California and get amazing. I want to thank everybody out there for their continued support. It's very important to me and my family. And I hope to meet you sometime, Pinche, out there, man, and we can link up and definitely have a conversation.
So I'm planning on, I know the date, but it's not 100, official but the next year's Florida show, I should be out there.
Oh wow, this would be great. Yeah, we could definitely link up and go out and have a good time, talk business, talk life, talk about where this culture is going to go again. Maybe it'll change by that time, because in 6 months, this thing can snowball into a whole new thing, and we'll be talking about something totally different.
Well, what I've been already hinted. There's already a couple things that what Red Cat said they're coming out with that they haven't even talked about. They've hinted. Oh, they've already said the 63's on its way. We know about the truck, but they said there's a couple more things that people can't talk about. And so I'm looking. That's why I'm holding back, because I'm like, I'm either gonna get a 59. I want to see what else they drop before we jump on anything next.
Well, you got my support. If you need anything from us, we wouldn't mind offering a paint job to you, Pinche style, whichever way you like it, and we can make something happen for you in that regard, because we want to support the people that support us and that put us into that avenue, that little space that we just pray for sometimes. And your platform did that for me today, and I want to say thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right, and thank you for your time. I appreciate you coming on and taking the time to get on the podcast and talk shop, talk RCs, and let everybody know that you came. This is an inspiring thing for you too.
For sure, this has been a definite step for our company. We wanted to project an image, a sound that made sense and connected them to us now. And we always ask you guys to reach out on the contact us page about any requests. We're interested in doing a lot of different stuff. From we want to do even the full scale haulers. We're looking to do an actual truck, low rider truck. So there's just a lot going on with what we're doing. But we ask that the community continue to just push us, make us better. We want to come out with the best products, the best. And it's right now, it's a 2-man or 3-man team, but hopefully within the next year, we'll have a few more hands on deck and get things done quicker.
All right. And then where can they find you on social media and your website?
You can find me on Instagram at RC Lowrider Connect, and you can also find me at www.rcconnect.com. We're always updating. We got some new specials going on this coming week. We got a 4th of July discount going on at 10%, but we've got hidden discounts all over the shop right now, so you guys got to go through there and start shopping through the catalog. I've got a lot of new items that are going up in the next week, some 3D parts that are going to just trying to take this to a whole new level and have this attainable for everybody. So, thank you guys. Thank you for supporting our platform. Thank you. We hope that we can stay there for you guys and continue pushing on the RC Lowrider culture.
All right. Well, thank you. And then, have the rest of a good day for the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Pinches Lowriders.